for America, and my collaborator Larry will speak shortly. I'd also like to acknowledge the official hostess for tonight, my mother. Would you stand, Mom? Also known as the youngest and most beautiful of all the Kennedy sisters. Ireland is ambassadorable, and we'll stop there because otherwise we'll run out of time. I'd also like to thank our distinguished guest, Don DeLillo, who wrote an incredible essay for the book on President Kennedy, and it meant so much to us to have him in the book. And of course, Gates Lees, two of our nation's great writers, and of course, President Kennedy himself was a writer and historian. He won the Pulitzer Prize for History. He celebrated artistic achievement as essential to the life of a free society. So to have such great contributors and guests, we're very, very honored to have you here. Also, Alexander Schlesinger and Ambassador William Vanden Heuvel and Melinda Vanden Heuvel. Bill Vanden Heuvel actually worked for Robert Kennedy, and there's a story about him campaigning with Kennedy in 1968. And RFK got off the plane. Afterwards, a guy followed him down the stairs with a dog. And Robert F. Kennedy went to the press conference, and the guy with the dog went down the runway. And so R.W. Apple, the chief political correspondent, followed the guy with the dog. And he caught up to him and he said, "Aren't you Bill Vanden Heuvel?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Weren't you number 2 at the Justice Department?" Bill said, "Yeah." He said, "Now you're walking Robert Kennedy's dog's Freckles?" And Bill said, "That may look like a dog to you, but it looks like an ambassadorship to me." So I'm going to cut my speech a little bit short, but you know, the reason that I did this, well, we did this book is that it was the middle of the campaign last year, and I picked up one of my uncle's speeches, a speech called Poetry and Power, and I read this line: "Our national strength matters, but the spirit which informs and controls that strength matters even more. The men who create power make an indispensable contribution to our nation's greatness, but the men who criticize power make an equally indispensable contribution." And I thought, you know, this is a kind of complexity of thought that I see absent from our current political discourse, and I wanted to bring to the attention of America our ability to sort of have a higher standard in our leadership. And so what we did was we asked prominent figures from around the world, from the Dalai Lama to Don DeLillo, to comment on JFK and its relevance to contemporary America. And we put together this book not only because it is the centennial of President Kennedy, but because he was the master of poetic, unifying language that spoke to our shared civic bonds and our common humanity. And we need that example of leadership more than ever today. And what I learned from reading his speeches is that although he served in combat and believed in a strong defense, he had this vision of America not only as a powerful nation, but as a great civilization. And by a great civilization, that meant great morally, as in the Civil Rights Address, great artistically, as in the National Endowment for Humanities and the Arts, great scientifically, as in the Moonshot, great spiritually, as in his address to the Houston Ministerial Association against religious discrimination. And we asked the Dalai Lama and Rick Warren and Tariq Ramadan to comment on that address because we felt it was so relevant today. And of course, Tariq Ramadan, who teaches at Oxford, was banned from the United States under the Bush administration because of his views on Islam. And so it's worth noting that he drew this vision really from his reading of history, American history, but also history going all the way back to the Greeks and the Romans, and the Roman idea of virtue or civic virtue, the Greek idea of the polis and the citizen as the essential element of a successful society. So he had many bold programs, and he believed was interested in educating the nation about what we have in common, what it means to be a citizen, what it means to be an American, and what role our country should play in helping to shape a better world. And the last thing you see when you walk out of the Kennedy Library is a quote from President Kennedy. "A man may die, a nation may rise and fall, but an idea lives on." And it has been 100 years since JFK's birth, and soon his memory will fade from the living memory of America. But I think his adventurous and humane vision of our country will live on, not only because he inspired us, but because he confronted us honestly with the challenges and opportunities of citizenship. And I found this quote in a speech that he did not get to give in Dallas, his last speech. And he said, and I think this kind of epitomizes President Kennedy's idea of America. He said, "In the future, the policies of the United States should be governed by learning and reason. Otherwise, those who confuse rhetoric with reality and plausible with the possible will gain popular ascendancy with their seemingly quick and easy solutions to every world problem." Our future is before us as shape as we can. What was President Kennedy's vision for America? Well, he said, for one thing, in his speech to the Massachusetts State Legislature, that when all of us are judged by the high court of history, we be judged by the answer to 4 questions. Were we truly men of integrity? Were we truly men of courage? Were we truly men of dedication? And were we truly men of integrity? So he had the vision, and it's worth asking ourselves whether our leadership meets the test of those questions. And he also said, "I look forward," he said, "to a great future in which our country will match its military strength with moral restraint, its wealth with wisdom, and its power with purpose. We do that," he said, "I'm confident in due season, we shall reap the kind of world we deserve and deserve the kind of world we shall have." We need each other. Let's renew our efforts to make that dream come true. That's my uncle's message. I'm just the messenger. Thank you.